Hey, welcome back to the channel. You're here today because you already know your dominant seventh arpeggios, aka your blues arpeggios in position 1 and 2, and you're ready to learn them in position 3. Before you go any further, this video is part of a series. This is not the first video in the series. So if you want to learn your blues arpeggios, memorize the fretboard with them, and play better over a 3-chord blues, and you want to start from the beginning, position 1 on the neck, navigate yourself using this card up here or the link in the description to the beginning of the series. If you know where you are and you're in the right place, let's keep moving forward. All right, before we begin, why don't I specify exactly what I mean when I'm talking about position 3? Now, if you know your BB box, if you're familiar with the idea of the BB box, that's what I'm talking about. It's the arpeggios that are laying on the fretboard in the same area as you would go to play all of that stuff. If you're not familiar with it through the construct of thinking about it as the BB box, the way that I would think about it is where you play your major and minor pentatonic when your hand position is sort of anchored so that you can play the root note of whatever key you're in on the B string. So in this case, we're playing an A, and that's the same place we've been for the duration of this series and will remain through the end of it. And our A, in this instance, is on the 10th fret of the B string. And so that is how I am defining position 3. Now, this is an excellent place to be playing the blues. The fact that the BB box is right there is one of the reasons for it. And the other, though, is more in line with the subject matter of this series of videos, which is that the dominant 7 arpeggios all lay under the fingers really, really nicely. The patterns are very natural to play. You've also already learned all of the shapes. If you've learned your dominant 7 arpeggios in position 1 and position 2, there's nothing new to get under your fingers, really, down here on position 3. It's just understanding which chords each shape applies to. So that said, why don't we dive right in? The format is going to be exactly the same. We're going to learn the dominant 7 arpeggio shapes for all 3 chords in the blues, the 1, 4, and the 5, on a lower string set, a bassier string set, and then we are going to learn it up an octave as well. All right, so without further ado, on our lower string set, here is a dominant 7 arpeggio. This is our shape on our lower string set. So pinky on the 12th fret on the A string, that's our root. 3rd is the 11th fret on the D string. 5th is the 9th fret on the G string. And then our flat 7 is going to be the 12th fret on the G string. Played this back in position 1, it's exactly how you played the 5 chord, the E7. Okay, so again, you're not learning any new shapes here. The 4 chord is sort of what you would probably associate as the primary dominant 7 shape, because it's what you play, how you would play the 1 chord in position 1. So it's just your D. Your 4 chord is right here, 10th fret on the E string, and it's this shape. 10th fret E string, 9th fret A string, 12th fret A string, 10th fret D string. And then our 5 chord exactly how you played the 4 chord in position 2, right? This is how we played the D7 last time. You're just moving it up 2 frets. So pinky on the 12th fret of the E string, ring finger on the 11th fret of the A string. It's the 3rd or 5th right here, pointer finger on the 9th fret of the D string, and then our flat 7, 12th fret of the D string. All right, so here's what we have on our lower string set in the 3rd position. 1, 4, 5. Let's play with that a little bit over our trusty backing track. Hope you got those under your fingers. Now we're going to move up an octave onto a string set. It's primarily on the top 3 strings, but we're going to get a little bit of the D string in there as well. All right, so this is one of those ones where in order to sort of fill out the arpeggio, we're not going to start on the root, right? Our root is right here, as talked about. We're actually going to play it like this, which is starting on the 5th using our pointer finger. So we're playing an A7. This is an E, so it's the 5th. 9th fret on the G string, and then go up to our flat 7, which is the 12th fret on the G string, and then we get our root, 10th fret on the B string, and that's the only note that you play on that string. So always make sure to keep that in mind if you're playing the arpeggios. Obviously, if you're doing BB box, there's a lot of juice to be squeezed from the notes right above it. But then we get our 5th again, but then we get our 3rd, C sharp on the 9th fret of the high E string, and our an octave of the 5th. So E right here on the 12th. So right here again. For the 4 chord, this should be very familiar too, because it's just this, based on this triad shape that is sort of chord shapes 101. We've got our D, that's the root note right here, 12th fret on the D string, 3rd, 11th fret on the G string, 5th, 10th fret on the B string, also our root, and then the 7th, 13th fret on the B string, and root again, 10th fret on the E string. So exactly where you played your A7 in position 1. And then our 5 chord, the E. Our root is here, 9th fret on the G string. Our 3rd is the 9th fret on the B string. I always like that when you're just, the chord tone is laid out so perfectly and all you got to do is jump a string. The 5th, 12th fret on the B string, right? B is the 5th of E. And then our flat 7 is D right here. And then if you want to fill it out, you've always got E right here as well to just play the octave of your root. All right, so on the higher octave, we have this A7, which we're starting on the root, or on the 5th, just to fill it out, have a little bit more to play with. We've got our 4th, and we've got our 5th. All right, let's go to the backing track and play with those a little bit. All right, great. And now, as we always do, we put everything together. It's helpful to break these down into string sets to learn them, but when you're sort of turning the thinking part of your brain off and just playing music, you're probably not really going to be partitioning them this way. So you want to make sure that you also get the arpeggio shapes across all 6 strings under your fingers so that you're not prohibited in any way when it comes time to make music. So here's our 1. And I should say, since I'm talking about playing across all 6 strings, we've been trying to start on the root for the most part, with a few exceptions. But so in an instance like this, here's our A. We're starting from the fifth string, but we could actually play chord tones beneath this as well, right? Our flat 7 is going to be on the 10th fret of the A string. Our 5th is going to be on the 12th fret of the E string, and we're going to have a 3rd on the 9th fret of the E string. So you could play this like. But I like to just, as a starting point, just make sure I'm getting this very strong under the fingers, thinking of the shape starting from the root. Your mileage may vary on that. Our 4 chord. Again, should be very familiar. It's just about understanding that's the shape that you apply to the 4 chord once you're here in this area of the neck, and the 5 chord. All right, so like I did at the top of the video, we'll take a listen to a quick chorus of a little bit more playing where I'm using the full stack of the string sets and throwing in some chromaticism and some major pentatonic ideas and musicality, playing under the constraints of arpeggio shapes in a single position is pretty limiting. So again, the real takeaway from these videos should just be trying to get these arpeggios under your fingers and then trying to make music with them. The examples are not a beacon of inspired playing by any stretch of the imagination, but it should give you some sort of idea of what's available without moving your hand that much around the neck to attack different chords. This was helpful. I would appreciate if you give the channel a sub, if you give the video a like. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments. I try to be pretty responsive about that. Until next time, when we attack all of these chord shapes in position 4 on the neck, thanks for watching.